It's time for the start of a video for the new year. I'm picking a video game that's not an anniversary, but it came out on the Switch as of today. Donkey Kong Country Returns. I already covered the first game 3 months ago. Now it's time for the other games to get more. And since Returns was the one I wanted to do besides the other sequels, I feel like it's time to do this one. So, let us begin. These tiki creatures come from the volcano and hypnotize the animals in the jungle and even stole the bananas. It's up to the two characters, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, to save the bananas. While the plot retreads the first game, it's more different than it is. Before I get to the game, I have to mention the introduction. After Rare was no longer part of Nintendo, the Donkey Kong games were on their own with other developers. Then in 2010, during E3, one of the developers, Retro Studios, the same ones that made the Metroid games, were working on a game that wanted to make something new, and thus, it happened. The trailer popped up and came Donkey Kong Country Returns. When I saw that, I was shocked and excited at the same time. I was not expecting a return of a Donkey Kong platformer game since it's been 14 years in the last series. The game was released on the Wii in November 2010, and the reception is pretty high. Now let's get to the game. The gameplay remains the same as the classic Super Nintendo games, but a lot of things that changed. First off, when you play as Donkey Kong along with Diddy Kong, you have 4 hearts, or 6 hearts, depending on the other version. I think it was a good idea because it is a very challenging game. You lose Diddy on the first turn, then you lose as Donkey Kong after. And while the single player doesn't require switching both characters, it does allow to play both. For example, Diddy Kong uses a jetpack to give a jump boost. Very good choice to go across platforms. Now, only in the multiplayer, Diddy does use a peanut pop gun to attack enemies. Other things that hasn't changed, like getting bananas and getting the Kong letters. There's even banana coins that you can buy in the shop, like getting a key to unlock an area. There's also puzzle pieces, in which those are optional for collectibles because they give you artwork and dioramas, but the gameplay remains as it was in the classic games. The graphics in this game are great. In fact, the best part about the graphics, not just the visuals, but the depths in the background. They even use camera angles slanted in different ways during inside the barrels. I like that. The original trilogy never did those. And while it's not pre-rendered sprites that accomplished from the original trilogy, I really like the graphics, especially on the Wii. The level design, of course, is great. They keep the barrels and vines throughout it. Even mine carts are available, which are always fun. Speaking of vehicles, they added the rocket barrel, which that is a great new addition to the game, and it controls very smooth. It is challenging, but man, I like that feature. It will later be added in the next game, Tropical Freeze. The levels, of course, look very good. I love the level where it takes place in a sunset, cool visuals to look, and while it's almost hard to see, I really do like it. And while I would have liked an underwater level like in the first game, it does have a beach area, in which those were fun too, even the one that has a giant octopus. Very sweet. The music, of course, sounds amazing. It does have the music from the first game, but even bringing new music. But is it better than the first game? No, the first game will always be the better one, and even the second Donkey Kong Country game. Now for the enemies. There is no Kremlins nor King K. Rool as the boss in the game, but there are different enemies not found in the first 3 games. The only animal ride-on character available is Rambi, and yes, it's pronounced that, not Rambi. Cranky Kong is available, who still gives advice, but even has items in the shop. The boss battles in Returns are pretty good. Before the battle, different tikis will hypnotize the bosses, and after the defeat, you can beat up the tikis. The bosses include a reptilian monster, 2 of them actually, with one having a shell, 3 pirate crabs, a bird in a golden cauldron, a bunch of moles on a train, a plant-like caterpillar, and a chicken and robot. Hey, robot chicken reference. Those are pretty interesting bosses. I think my favorite one is probably the moles on a train part. While it was a pain, it was a fun ride during the battle. My least favorite boss is the pirate crabs. I didn't like that one much. It was mainly jump on the head, ground pound, and hit them on the bottom. Now the final boss is interesting. It takes place on top of the volcano, and the final boss is a giant tiki creature named Tiki Tong. The creature does look creative. It actually kind of reminds me of Andross from Star Fox, with its big hands and big head. When you battle, you take out both hands and then the head. Still pretty hard final boss, but still satisfying afterwards. Speaking of difficulty, how hard is the game? Oh, it's pretty hard. And while I like that you get more lives, the difficulty is pretty high. I've lost track how many times I died in the game. Plus, I haven't made it to the Golden Temple part, but maybe one day I'll beat it. Any nitpicks in the game are very minor, but it's still an amazing game overall. Now, where would I rank this game with the other Donkey Kong Country games? I'll say it's like at number 3. It's on the same level as Diddy Kong's Quest. Plus, the first one and Tropical Freeze are my favorite in this series, and I love those games more than Returns. Now let's get to the next thing. This game first started on the Wii, but then later ported to the 3DS in 2013, which I guess it works fine with the 3D effect. And as of today, Donkey Kong Country Returns gets ported again on a Nintendo Switch. The only difference is that it's in high definition, hence the title. It's been 14 years since the game first came out, and later ported twice. And while I already own the Wii version, I do recommend for people that haven't played Returns before. And while Tropical Freeze did port 2 on the Switch, I feel like Nintendo wanted to do that for Returns so they can complete all the Donkey Kong Country games. Though I am waiting for a 6th game or an all new Donkey Kong game. Maybe next system perhaps. All in all, Returns was a great game that brought the Donkey Kong series back to its roots. I'm sure I had a lot of fun ever since I beat that game a while back. If you're getting the Switch version, you're definitely going to love it. That is all for the review of the game. That's all I got for now. Gotta go work on a big video coming next month. See you all next time.